Hey guys, it's me, Gabriel, your Wolfpack leader and young healer, coming to you with that morning boost. There's still, no, it's not morning anymore, but that's okay. Doesn't really matter when you see this video, it's the morning boost. Anyways, so, when faced with temptation, facing temptation, something to that effect. I can never figure out these titles until I'm actually on, posting it. Anyways, so, temptation comes in a myriad of forms. Anger. A lot of times it is anger, mind you. But just doing things you feel that there's this weird temptation is weird. In a lot of ways it's trying to substitute a will for God's. And often when we're faced with it, what happens when we fail, I don't want to say fail because that sounds kind of depressing, but when we fall short, and when we succumb to the temptation, it often is when we try to place a reliance on ourself. I gotta do this, and it feels hard, it feels heavy, and it feels like we're getting crushed under the weight of this temptation. So, how do we overcome this? And we all have our temptations, and none of them are uncommon. It all still stems back. At the core of it all is based around fear and this substitute for God's will, trying to make you believe I gotta have this thing, whatever it may be. And that's where the whole lust thing comes into play. It's not necessarily the sexual, but rather it's placing the body as an end and not a means of communication. And communication can't be through that of anger, but of peace and love and all those spiritual dynamics. You can interchange it. But the point is that in order to overcome it, this will tie into what I was gonna say. So in order to overcome it, what you got to do is stop yourself when the temptation is coming. One thing that's important is to not attack the magic thoughts, and the magic thoughts are that of temptation, because it's this magical experience. It's like a magic show that you're confronted with this situation where there's a substitute for God's will. That's pretty impossible if you think about it, if God's will is all in all. So that being the case, you can look at that as magic thoughts. I think it helps take away the supposed reality. Like, this is magic. You're able to, separate the chaffs from the wheat. And by doing that, you can then not be so afraid of it. Because that's an important thing with temptation, is to not condone it, but rather also not to be afraid of it, to not feel that it has any power to destroy you, that it has any power over you. When you recognize the truth that the only power it has over you is that from which you give it, it opens up this whole realm of strength. And what's more, though, is that it does require a conviction of your success, but recognizing that your success comes not of yourself, but of Him who has sent you. Then, that's when you go back and not trying to just rely on your own self to overcome it, because that's when you're going to fail. You fail. That's so many times. It's not just about having this willpower, but will of the Holy Spirit flowing through you. It works best when you do it together. And so with that, you don't have to feel like you have to overcome it by yourself. Hardly. When you go back to Him, He's able to give you the spiritual truth from which to speak within. Sometimes it's not even words, it's a feeling. And so that's another thing. It's not about just reciting these certain passages from the Bible or something to that effect, whatever it may be. It very well may come to that, but it's more about being able to have the essence of recognizing that you're not relying on yourself. So that's why it's important that you turn to your inner guide, and why you don't attack these magic thoughts, because by doing that, you allow it. What you're giving love. Then you're giving forgiveness. You're giving peace. You're allowing the peace of God to resonate and not attack, not anger. You're allowing the sword to be given away so that you may have open hands to receive the healing of the Holy Spirit. That's really special, friends. So when you do all these things, that we've just talked about, then I believe you will experience that healing through temptation. I did. I experienced temptation this morning. And I quickly, I realized I was trying to rely on my own self. And often that's where the depression hits also, with our jobs and life and what have you. We feel like we're going through a depressing experience. The future seems depressing. But then we recognize, often I do, it's like, man, am I trying to go at this myself to try to be independent of the Holy Spirit? Or do I want to include him in this journey? And when I do, he helps set me back on the right path. And often I'm like, I don't need to be all worked up and bothered about all this stuff. It's all going to be okay, baby. But you got to learn to let go. You got to learn to try to stop trying to control reality and just enjoy it, baby. So that's it, friends. And so, yeah, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to put them in the comments section, and we'll go from there. And I surely hope this has helped and has brought about some healing and giving you a sense of empowerment, spiritual empowerment. And so here at the Wolfpack, we wish you well, and Godspeed, my friends. Peace.